When you order a new VPS server, that VPS server comes with a pre-installed operating system, but it has no control panel for most VPS servers, except where you have requested that a control panel be installed for you as part of your installation bundle. But in most cases, your VPS server comes with an operating system, and then you are left with the choice of control panel to install on that VPS server, and then to use that control panel to host and manage your websites. So in most cases, your VPS servers come blank, and then it is left to you to install the kind of control panel that you want on top of the operating system of that VPS server. Now, if you have ordered a VPS server from Hub, most of the time, your VPS server comes pre-installed with CentOS S7 as at the time of recording this video. If that changes in the future, just find what operating system is installed on your VPS server and pick up from that point. But as at the time of recording this video, your VPS server will come pre-installed with CentOS S7, and you would see why shortly. Now, once your VPS server comes pre-installed with CentOS S7, if you decide you want to change the operating system later, you can always log into your control panel for your VPS server, and then you can do a reinstall of your VPS server. Please pay attention. When you reinstall your VPS server, you lose all data on that VPS server. It's like you are doing a formatting of the hard drive of your VPS server, so you lose all data. So always apply reinstalls with a bit of caution. Now, if you decide you want to change the control panel, the operating system on your VPS server at any point in the future, you can always do a reinstall, and then you choose the operating system that you would like to have on your server, or your Linux server, and then you run that, and it will be installed on your server, and you can continue with that. If you find out that a Linux distribution of the operating system you want to, of the operating system you wish to install on your VPS server is not available, you can get in touch with your VPS server provider, and if there is provision for that operating system, it will be, or that Linux distribution, it will be made available for you, and then you can run that and have that running on your VPS server. So now that you have a brand new VPS server, how do you install a control panel on that VPS server? That's what we are going to cover very quickly. Now, in order for you to install a control panel on your VPS server, the control panel that we will be working with is Control Web Panel. Please understand that there are several control panels out there, from Vesta CP to Control Web Panel CWP to Webuzo to cPanel, and so on and so forth. But we will be working with Control Web Panel, which is CWP, for this video because it is cheap. It costs just like $1.45 per month to run that control panel, which makes it very cheap, and you can host unlimited websites with that control panel, and you're going to be seeing all of that in the course of this video series. So how do you install Control Web Panel on your VPS server? Well, the first thing you want to do is that you want to go to you want to do a search. You can just do a Google search for Control Web Panel, which is CWP, so that you can see the requirements, the server requirements, and that's the site. So you just go to that site, and then you can see the server requirements, and you can see what you need to have running on your server and how to install this control panel on your VPS server. So if you go under products and then you go to installation instructions, you will see the instructions for installing your server. And once you come here, you can just quickly look at the requirements. If you look at here, you see the requirements, You see system requirements. So you are asked to set up a host name, you are asked to set up an IP address, and then you are asked to use the recommended CentOS 7. And this is why we are saying that CentOS 7 is pre-installed on this VPS server for you. And then you can see the hardware requirements. You are asked that you should have a 64-bit operating system and a minimum of 2 gig RAM, but it is recommended that you have 4 gig RAM of space. So this is where you see all the requirements. Now, in order for you to start using or start installing your VPS server, you would have received the login information to your VPS server from your VPS provider, and that usually includes the IP address of your server, the username of your server. Usually the default is root, and then you have the password to your server. So what you want to do next is that you want to download a software called PuTTY on your computer. You want to go to putty.org, or you just do a Google search for PuTTY, and then you want to install PuTTY on your computer. Please, when you come to PuTTY, please make sure that you download PuTTY, not the SSH clients and not the SSH server. You want to download PuTTY. That's what you are going to use to access your VPS server and to install your control panel. And if you need to troubleshoot your server, you would also use that to troubleshoot your server. So once you have downloaded and installed PuTTY, you want to launch PuTTY, and then you want to enter your IP address, you want to enter your username, and you want to enter your password. I'm going to just do that very quickly so that you see how that is done. So I have PuTTY running here, and once you have your PuTTY running, what you want to do next is that you want to enter the IP address to your server under the section for IP address. Now, when you have a new VPS server, the port, the SSH port to that server is going to stay as a default port 22. So you have port 22 here. Later, under the security settings, we are going to adjust that port 22 to beef up the defenses of your server. But for now, just have at the back of your mind that a new server will come with port 22. And then what you want to do here is that you want to enter the IP address of your server. So for this server that I'm going to be using as this test configuration, I'm just going to enter the IP address of that server. Remember, the IP address of your server will be given to you by your provider. And then once that IP address has been given to you, what you want, once you have entered that IP address and the port, the SSH port, what you want to do is that you want to open up your server. And the moment you click to open up your server, the moment you click to open up your server, it asks you for some security information, and of course you want to say okay, you want to say yes to that security information, and then you will be given a prompt where you are asked to log in with your username. So you are asked for your username. So when you see login as, what it's asking for is the username to that server. So you enter the username, which usually the default is root, and then once you enter the username, you hit your enter key once, and the next thing is that you will be asked for your password. Now, when you are asked for your password, remember I said earlier that once your server is created, your VPS provider will send you all these credentials. So you have to look those credentials up. Now your password will be available in that particular information that you are given from your VPS server provider. Now you can copy that password, or you can carefully type the password under the password field. Please understand that when you are using PuTTY, when you type your password or you enter your password, the password will not be displayed on screen. So you have to be careful about what password you are entering, otherwise you get it wrong and you will not be given access to your server. The other thing you can do is that you make sure you carefully select the password and make sure that there are no spaces in front and behind the password. And then once you have selected that password, you come into your PuTTY and you use the right mouse button, again the right mouse button, and then you click that right mouse button only once. The moment you click the right mouse button only once, that password becomes pasted in PuTTY automatically. Of course, you will not see it, but make sure you click once. If you click twice, the password becomes pasted twice and the password will be wrong. So you have to click just once. And once you click once, hit your enter key. And if that password is correct, you will see this hash, which shows you that you are in your server. So if I hit the enter key again, you will see that hash, and that means I am in the server. Now, to test if your server is working and connected to the internet, you can just do ping. Ping is a command. We are working with Linux commands now. So ping is a command. You can just say ping and you just say pingyahoo.com. And once there is a response, you can see there is a response. That means this server is connected, you are logged in, and things are working. Now, to stop this from continuing in a loop, what you want to do is that you want to hit your control key and C, that is Control C, together simultaneously, and that will abort that process. Now, good. Now, once you have logged into your VPS server like this, the next thing you want to do is you want to go back to your CWP instructions and you want to follow the instructions available on CWP. So I'm just going to head over to CWP once again by going to the browser. And I'm just going to look at the instructions, and what we are going to do is that we are just going to follow the instructions, and we're just going to copy out the instructions. So the first instruction is that we should set up a host name. Now, if you are using the whole hub server, you may ignore this when you are starting out, and then you do this later. The next thing is you want to set up your server IP address. Of course, that is already provided by the provider and it has been emailed to you. Then you want to check your software requirements. Of course, CentOS 7 has been installed. And then you want to check your hardware requirements. Of course, you already have a 4 gig RAM server and a 64-bit operating system. So the next thing you want to do is you want to go to the server update. And then here you have this command that says that you should run this command, yum-y install wget, that's wget. So I'm just going to go over and I'm going to type that command. Of course, you can also copy that command and paste that command. So I can just do copy this command, copy, and then I come to PuTTY and I paste that command in the SSH terminal. Okay, let me just, so I come to PuTTY and then in my SSH terminal I just paste that command. So I just come and I paste that command. Remember, in order to paste, what you want to do is that you want to right click. You want to right click your mouse button once. If you do it 2 times, you get copied twice. So you just do it once. And then I'm just going to clear this. I'm just going to do yum dash, that's yum dash y install widgets, and then I just hit enter. Once you hit enter, you would see widgets will be downloaded to your server. That's the first step. So the second instruction says that we should, for CentOS 8, that is, if you are using CentOS 8, then you need to run this instruction. Of course, we are not using CentOS 8, we are using CentOS 7. So we just go to the second step, which is to update the server. It's very important that you update the server so that your server is up to date, especially in the area of security. Once your server is up to date, you know that you have the latest security fixes, you have the latest softwares on that server. So you are just going to copy this, and you are going to copy, and then you go back to your PuTTY, and then you just paste that command. It's so simple, it's so easy. I don't know why people shy away from this, because we have a Windows background, but it's not difficult. So you come back to your putty, and then you right click once, and then you have that command pasted, yum-y update, and then you click enter, and then you just wait for your server to be updated. So this might take a little bit of time. It doesn't really take that long, but it might take a little bit of time. So just wait, and then you have that server will be updated for you. So what I'm just going to do is I'm just going to skip the updating process, but usually you just have to wait until this is done, and then when it is done, you go to the next instruction from the CWP website, and then you run that instruction, and then you go to the next instruction, and then you run that instruction, you go to the next instruction, you run that instruction until you have gone through all the steps. So I'm just going to wait for this to complete, and you might just notice that I speed up the video so that I can just continue with the next step. Now, during the installation process, sometimes you will notice that the screen will just stop and it will look as if nothing is moving. What you want to do at those periods is that you just want to wait. Now, at that time, you may be downloading something heavy to your server, and it's just taking a bit of a time. So once you see or you notice that it looks as if things are hanging, what you want to do is just wait and just leave it and just continue to watch, and you will discover that after a while it will start up again and the installation process will continue once again. And the update of the server is complete. So what we have here is that we have the server update successfully completed, and if you look carefully, let me just try and adjust the screen so that you can see. If you look carefully, you would see that the server update is complete. So we go to the next step on the website, and the next step says that we should run the command reboot. So reboot essentially restarts your server, and then once your server is restarted, you will be disconnected from the server, and then you will need to perform the login process again from start. So what we are going to do now is that we are going to do a reboot, and then we just wait for like 3-4 minutes for that server to be rebooted and for the server to come back online. So I'm going to go back to putty, and I'm just going to do the reboot command. So once you do reboot, is that you have rebooted your server, and then the moment you reboot your server, that server shuts down and then restarts. So definitely that server is going to lose internet connection, and it means that at that point your putty will stop working, and then it is when your server is back online that you would be able to continue to use that server as normal. So usually you want to wait just about 3-4 minutes, and then you retry your server. So I'm just going to try that server again to see if that server is back online. So what I'm just going to do is I'm going to what you can do is that on top of the browser for putty, on top of the window for putty where you have the name of putty, you can right click on that name putty, and then you can try to restart session and see if that works. So if you restart session, it would give you the login as again, and then let me just do it again. So you just do restart session, and then once you do a restart of the session, let me try and adjust so that you can see a bit clearly. So once you do a restart of the session, it gives you that console where it says login as, and of course the username is root. So you do root, and then it asks you for your password. Of course, you copy that password once again, and then when you copy the password, you want to do a right click. Remember, you right click only once, and then you hit enter. Once you do that, you are logged back into the server, and then you can continue with your installation process. So the next step in the process is, let's go back and see what the next step is, and then it says step 4, the installation proper. So under the installation proper, it says installation. Now you are ready to start CWP installation, and then it says CWP installer can run more than 30 minutes because it needs to compile Apache and PHP from source. All right, we've had that. And then it says that the recommended OS operating system we should use is CentOS 7, which we already have. So what we are going to do next is that we are going to run all these commands one after the other. Now this is the command for running or for installing CWP on CentOS 7. This is the command for installing CWP on CentOS 8. All right, so we are not going to use all of this. We will sort out all of this later, and then when we are done, we just do a reboot again. That's all. So what we are going to do is that we are going to run these 3 commands one by one. So we are going to start with cd user this does that, and then we are going to just go into our putty, and then we are going to paste that command. So we come in here and we just drop this command here, and then we hit enter, and then that command has been run. Then the next thing is we go back to the instruction and we look for the next command. So the next command says we get this, so we copy the second command, and then we just do a copy. We go back to our putty, and then we paste that second command and we hit enter, and then we wait, and then that command is done. So that you would know that the command has been completed when you see this your roots at IP source, something like this come up. That shows you that the command is complete. Each time the command is complete, you'll be taken back to this point where you can enter something else again. So the next thing is we want to run the final command, and then we just do this, and then we copy, we come back to our putty, and then we put that command in, and we just wait. So we put the command in, and then we press enter again, and CWP starts to install on the server. Now this process will take a bit of time because a lot has to be installed on the server for you. For instance, your MySQL databases have to be installed, your firewalls have to be installed, you have so many different softwares have to be installed on your server automatically for you. You have your PHP has to be installed, at least 1 or 2 versions of PHP needs to be automatically compiled for you. Your postfix mail server has to be installed, your Dove code has to be installed, and so many things. So what you want to do is that you want to make sure that you leave this window running and just allow the installation process to run and complete. Now, like I explained earlier, when you notice that at a point it looks as if it is hanging or that things are not moving, just leave the screen and let it keep running, because at that point what is happening is that probably the server is downloading something heavy and it's taking a bit of time to complete. Now as soon as that process is completed, you would see that the installation will continue and it will go on to the next item, and it will continue like that until the installation is complete, and you will see that it is complete. And at that point when the installation is complete, what you want to do is that you want to just go to the last step in the instruction, because all of this does not really but concern us. You want to go to the last step, which is just to reboot the server, and then once you reboot the server, you can just log in to that server. But this time around, you will not be logging in via SSH any longer. You'll be logging in directly in the console, the CW panel admin console, and then from that point you can now administer your server, you can host your sites, you can do your security updates and all of that. So what we just do now is that I'll just allow this to just install in the background, and then once it is complete, you can do a reboot. That's all. That's all about installation. Now at the end where the installation is complete, you'll be given some instructions about how to log into your server, and then you just copy those instructions, log into your server, and then you can move to the next video and see how to configure your CWP such that you do your security updates. You can now start hosting your websites. Like I said earlier, if you need to host 10 different websites for your businesses, you can use the same VPS server to host all those sites, and you'll find out that it's super easy to use CWP. So what I'm just going to do now is I'm going to wait for this installation to complete so I can just do the reboot and we can see the instructions for accessing our site, so that you keep all those, and then we move on to the next video where I begin to show you how to complete. So really, when it comes to installing your VPS server, it doesn't really take that much of a time. It takes just about 20 minutes of your time to install your VPS server, and then this is something that you do just once. You don't install your VPS server every day. For instance, since the time I have installed my own personal VPS server now, I have not gone back to do a reinstallation, and it's been months that I did that. So you can reinstall your VPS, you can install your VPS server in just about 20 minutes and have that server running for you and running your website for the next 5, 6, 7 years. As long as there are no security updates that require you to do anything major or heavy on your server. So really, just take the time out to do this and to perfect your skills, and then you'll find out that each time you are confronted with installation of servers, it's something that is very easy for you to do and is not so difficult to run and to install server. In fact, you can do it from your sleep. So what I'm just going to do now is I'm going to wait for this installation to complete, and once it is completed, we will continue with the rest of the video. I'll just break this video and then we continue in another section of the video where I begin to show you the CWP control panel, and then we'll host our first website, and then we'll go on from that point. Now, the CWP installation is complete, and you really want to take note of a few things here at this point. You want to take note of, let me just highlight those things before I do a reboot of the server. Remember, the last step of the process is that you want to make sure that you run a server reboot, and then that sets up everything. But before you run a server reboot, you want to make sure that you copy some information and just keep it somewhere. For now, the information I want you to keep are these. I want you to keep your host name. So just select and keep this section of the whole thing. You want to keep your host name, that's this. So just note what your host name is, because we are going to use that later. So keep your host name. Then also you want to, you may decide to keep your MySQL password, but it's not really needed as such. Then also you want to keep these information here. That's how to get to the control panel of your site. So basically you want to keep all these information until we get into the next section where we are going to use those information. So once you have all of this, the next thing you want to do is that you want to reboot your server. So you just run the reboot command, and then once you reboot your server, of course the server is disconnected from the internet, and then you wait just like 2-3 minutes for the server to come back up. And once the server is back up, is rebooted, you can just easily test if truly CWP has been installed on your server. So I'm just going to wait like 2 or 3 minutes, and then I'm going to test if CWP has been installed on the server, and then we'll move on. So let's just go. I think by now the server should be back up. So what you want to do to test if CWP has been installed on your server is that you just want to enter the IP address of your server directly in the browser. So to test if CWP has been installed successfully on your server is actually very simple to do. What you want to do is head over to your browser and then grab your IP address and just put in your IP address in your browser and just hit enter. And once you can see the default welcome CWP page, it means that CWP has successfully been installed on your server, and it's as simple as that. So the next thing you want to just do now is that you want to log into the control panel of your CWP, and you see the instruction for doing that here by if you look carefully here, it says the instructions here says that you can log into your control panel by going to your IP address semicolon 2030. So if we try that here and we just do the IP address semicolon, or is that a colon? I think that's a colon, 2030, and we do that, you would see, of course, this is our site. We know that there is nothing wrong with it, so we can just go to advanced and we can proceed to the site. It's our site. We know we don't have anything malicious on it. And then you have the control panel of CWP, and then you can log into this control panel of CWP using your root, that's your username, and then the password of your server. So I'm just going to do that very quickly, and then I log in and you have CWP installed and running on your server. So going forward, we won't really be using much of the SSH client any longer. We are going to be focusing on just doing the bulk of our work directly from the CWP control panel. So congratulations, what we have done now is that we have successfully installed CWP. So starting from the next video, we'll look at how we can set up our CWP in such a way that we can, clear off all these security updates, and we can configure our server and make the server more secure by turning on we do things like turning on our firewall and just get familiar with working with the CWP control panel. So I'll see you in the next video. Bye bye.